let's say we want to create a sky for this, but we don't want to go through all the work of using the material nodes in order to set up the sky texture. So what else could we do to get like a really realistic sky? Well, there's this thing called a HDRI, and essentially, you know how for the material we're kind of like setting up like where the sky layers should be. It's essentially a texture for the world environment, and you can get some amazing lighting from it. So let's just set this scene up real quick. I'm going to delete this light right here. X delete, Shift A, mesh plane, S, scale it out, all the way out. Let's go to the camera, click 0, click on the camera, and what we want to do is R, X, and then X again. Rotate up, GZ, and there we go. So we can see the land and we can see that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to go to the shading workspace. So we do have to do some nodes, but it's not nearly as difficult as what we did before. We want to go to render, go to the camera icon, and we want to, because we want to modify the world, we're going to go from object to world, and there we go. So now let's actually go through it. So what we want to do is we're going to do Shift A, search. We want to do texture coordinate. Here we go. Shift A, search. We want to do mapping, MAPP, mapping. And let's connect generated to vector. Oops, generated to vector. Here we go. Shift A, search. And what we want to do is search for HDR. Let's see, there we go. Environment texture. I always forget what this one's called. So here's environment texture. Connect vector to vector and color to color. So again, the way to think about this is there's a invisible sphere around us. And what the texture coordinate does is it actually grabs that location where the color should be. And the mapping, what that does of like how to offset of that location of like for where the color should be. So what's cool about this is for rotation, we can actually rotate our scene based off of the Z. So we can see this pink, and whenever you see pink in Blender like this, means the texture does not exist. So if the texture does not exist, that means we need to go get it. So real quick, let's just go ahead and save this. We're going to go to File, Save, okay, and I'm going to go here. I'm going to just call this HDRI, and I'm going to save blend file. So we have our cube. The next thing that we want to do is actually go grab the HDRI. So make sure you have this saved. And where you want to go to, so Polyhaven. So we're going to click on Polyhaven. We want to navigate to Browse HDRIs. Cool. Here we go. So we are in the Polyhaven. And here are the HDRIs. So some clarification of what you're seeing here is we have this texture here. Like we have the clouds, we have the sky, and then we have the spheres. So these spheres represent different materials and how it interacts with the environment, with the textures. So depending on what you want, let's say, you want to have like a really sharp, crisp shadow, you want to choose based off of what these look like, what the materials look like, and not what the sky looks like. So there's kind of a difference between the two. Now, if you're doing, let's say, an environment, like you want to have an actual, grass and stuff, then yeah, what you would do is actually pick based off of what the scene looks like. But in our case, what we want is the actual material, the object itself. So let's get a nice, good one. I like this one. This one looks pretty good. It's not too harsh of a shadow. You still have the shadow, but you have some interesting things around it. So I'm going to click here. And there's a bunch of different versions. So 4K is if you actually want to have it in the background. But in our case, let's just do 2K. 2K is enough for reflections and just basic lighting. So we have 2K. I'm going to go ahead and download this guy. Okay, so just download it. And real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. Let's going to do show in Finder. And I'm just going to save this into a safe location. I'm just going to put it into the directory that the blend file is in. Go back here, back to Blender. And now I'm going to click open. And we can see that we have this texture. Now notice it's .exr. So this is specific for HDRIs. Click on open image. And there we go. So now we have the lighting all around us. If you notice, we're not really getting any shadows. And unfortunately, the reason because we're in Eevee. So remember, Eevee kind of does some hacks and stuff. Now, if I go here, switch it to cycles, we have the shadow now. If we go back to Eevee, we don't have the shadow. But a hack that we can do is Shift A. We can go to light, sun, G, rotate this guy. And it just has to be close enough. That's all we really want. But if we go around here, we can see this an entire environment. It's a 360-degree view. So it's giving us everything we need in order to have photorealistic lighting. So it's great. So this is really great for cycles. For Eevee, it's a bit of work in order to make it look good. Back here to the mapping, what I was talking about is if we change the Z, we can actually have it rotate around our cube. For me personally, what I like to do is I like having the 3-point lighting set up for Eevee. That's what looks really good with that. And then for cycles, I like having the HDRIs. We all have our different workflows. Part of this, of learning Blender, of learning all these tools and stuff, is figuring out what works good for you, what works best for you. And that's just the journey of it.